let's put new feathers on this arrow. The first thing I'm going to do is cut these feathers off with a sharp knife. I'm not going to cut into the fibers too much. There's carbon fibers in this shaft, and I'm going to try to lay that blade on there so that I'm cutting off the glue and the feather residue without actually digging into the carbon fibers. I don't know how you do it, but that's the way I do it. I'll clean this all the way down to where there's no residue, and then I'll clean it off with denatured alcohol. The point here is to get all of that glue residue off so the new glue can stick. I cement my inserts in, and then I cut off the rear of that shaft for fletching. So we have this label on here, but it doesn't really matter what it looks like. I just make sure that I have a factory cut on the front of that shaft for my insert, and that's about right. Next, I load this jig up. What I'll do is I'll make sure that I have a right wing feather and a right wing clamp, and I've pre-marked where that goes, so the end of the feather will be uniform from the nock on every arrow that I make. And there's no trick to it. I just put that arrow in there and lay it in there all the way like that, and then make sure the end of it matches up with that mark, and that way they'll all go the same way. This is a left wing, and it's going to have a little spin to it, probably about 2.5 degrees. So when I set up my jig, I make these adjustments so that I get the twist that I want out of the arrow. It's not very much, but it doesn't really take much, and as long as they're uniform, you really can't screw it up. I'll take the tip of the arrow out so it doesn't get in the way, and it'll make it less wiggly, and it's pretty simple. You can just fit the nock into the slot in this part of the jig. You just set it up like that, and you're pretty much ready to go. It will twist. There's detents that give you a 3 feather application, and then I'll just put some glue on this and stick it on there. You can use any good cement. I like this household cement. Duco is a good product. Seems to stick feathers to carbon pretty well. There are specialty glues you can use, and they're good. This works good too. I've always used this. So you just put a bead of glue on there, and it's not going to set up so fast that you can't put the lid back on the glue. And then you'll take your jig like that, and there's a magnet here, and that'll have to go flat with this plate on the back, and so you'll just stick it on there, put it on like that, and lay it down and sort of snug it up like that. Make sure your arrow's all the way back, but snug it up like that and stick it down, and then sort of walk away from it for a couple of minutes and let it set up, and then do the others. Once that's set there for a couple of minutes, you open up this clamp and pull it straight off, and hopefully you have not glued the feather to the clamp, and it will stick just to the arrow shaft, and then do that 2 more times. Okay, time's up. There you have a nice, fresh, new fletched arrow, and it's ready to go. Actually, I let these sit overnight before I shoot them, just to let that cement set up. And before I do that, another thing I do is I take a dot of this cement and I put a dot of glue. I put a dot right at the front and back of the front and back of every fletching, and that I at least perceive that to be an effective way to glue those ends down in case they hit something hard, or if they actually go through a target, which they do from time to time, because these are like 740 grain arrows. I'm shooting them out of a 60-pound bow. They hit pretty hard, and they've been known to go right through targets. And I'll let that sit overnight and shoot it in the morning. Nice fresh fletching. These I re-fletch these a lot because they last a long time. I don't smack them into cement walls or anything. At least I try not to. That ruins them. It gets expensive. Anyway, good luck. Have a good time. Remember, the guy who has the most fun wins.